Welcome to the show, sports fans. This is the Treasure Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the Treasure Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, breaking down District 3 activities most weeks here on IdahoSports.com. My name is Brandon Baney. We are joined by our District 3 expert, Logan Green. Logan, what's up?
Hey, Brandon. Just happy to be here.
Yeah, me
as
too.
Usual.
Yeah. Sorry we missed last week's show. Basically, I'm sure everybody knows and is tired of hearing about it, but I'm in the process of moving with my wife to North Idaho, but we have to sell our house first. And so we're at the point now where it's nice and lots of people are coming to look at the house. Still no buyers, but so my schedule's been kind of all over the place. I've been working a lot of late nights, which is not conducive to podcasting. And so I'll admit I ran out of time last week to get anything done. But here we are this week, Logan, and we'll make up for it with some really good bracket talk.
Yeah, it's always fun. I mean, you got the district brackets. Some are complete and ready, some are not. And that's just the way it's going to be right now. And there are some really interesting scenarios just looking over the brackets before we got on this. Again, we'll have go through all the lists, but there are some that have some very intriguing matchups, and there are some that are kind of, I'm looking at U2A that might be more wide open than we really think when you really look at what's gone on the last couple of weeks. So, just real interesting stuff. As it's hard to believe. I mean, I was looking at my calendar. It's like 2 weeks from tomorrow is when, state tournaments begin. Kind of crazy that we're that close to being done with high school sports for the year.
Yeah, it's nuts. And so we're going to go through all the district tournaments for baseball and softball. A lot of it's going to be yet to be determined. Really, the 5A Southern Idaho Conference gets going this week. And then everybody else really starts getting going into the next week. But the SIC is so big that they have to start early. Real quick, Logan, before we get to the district brackets, I wanted to check in on some tennis action because last week was the largest tennis tournament of the year in the state of Idaho. And it used to be the largest regular season tennis competition in the Pacific Northwest. I think it's since been surpassed. But the annual Capital Classic, hosted in the Treasure Valley, Boise, Capital, Bishop Kelly, Timberline, they all kind of get together and use their facilities to host it. But Capital High School is the main school that organizes everything. The Capital Classic is a great tennis tradition in the state of Idaho. 32 teams came to the Treasure Valley last weekend in pretty nice weather to compete. You had Bishop Kelly, Boise, Bonneville, Bora, Capital, Centennial, Century, Columbia, Eagle, Fruitland, Hermiston, Oregon, Hillcrest, Idaho Falls, Cami Aiken from Washington, Cuna, Lewiston, Madison, Meridian, Middleton, Mountain View, Nampa, Owyhee, Parma, Ridgeview, Rocky Mountain, Skyline, Skyview, Thunder Ridge, Timberline, Twin Falls, Valley View, and Wood River. Holy crap, that's a lot of teams.
Yeah, you just throw them all in. And from the way I think it worked, right, everybody play like a pool play. And I have a really good friend that I say friend, and I know he's 15 years younger than me, but that's on the tennis team at Middleton. And his mom was telling me they went 3-0 in their pool play, and then made it to that championship round, ended up losing in the first round. But tons of teams that showed up to that. Like you said, 32 teams from all over the place, and a great event at Capital there.
Yes. Yes, they started with round robin play, and then from there they seeded teams and then had a championship bracket. There was boys singles, girls singles, boys doubles, girls doubles, and then mixed doubles, which is one male, one female, which is one of my favorites. The team races, I'm sure you're shocked to hear this, both went to Boise. The Boise High tennis program is so dominant. The girls won with a total of 176 points. Bishop Kelly was second with 144.5. Timberline took third at 139. On the boys' side, Boise ran away with it, 194 points for the Brave. Eagle was second at 167.5, and Timberline also took third on the boys' side with 115. And so what does this tell us? This tells us that Boise is probably going to win both the 5A boys and girls tennis titles, and
Yep.
Bishop Kelly also at the 4A level is going to be very tough once again.
Yeah, and it seems like that is the case a lot of the time. Yeah, those two schools, when it comes to, Boise ran everybody out of the building with running in the fall, things like that. And probably going to do it again, right from what we've seen. They're good there. And then their tennis team, obviously really good. And Bishop Kelly just does good at everything. I saw, it's really funny. I don't know how it hit my algorithm, but Bishop Kelly made this reel, and it was about softball and raising money for their softball program, I think. And they didn't even begin softball until the mid 90s or something like that. They started a team, and then they basically just have dominated ever since they even started the team. And so, that's just the way it goes for those schools for some sports.
Yeah, I think we talked about that on one of the Prepcasts last year about Bishop Kelly's in 25 years they have won 20.
I think we did have this conversation. Maybe it was us. Yeah, it was. Yeah, what else is new though, huh? To throw them in another mix of winning something else.
Yeah, for sure. So Bishop Kelly is the defending champion in girls tennis for 4A. Wood River is the defending boys champion. And they actually were the highest placing 4A team at the Capital Classic with 99.5 points. But Ridgeview, and that was for 6th overall. Ridgeview was right behind them in 7th at 94.5. So only 5 points separated Wood River and Ridgeview. And that is basically what happened last year at State Logan. It was one of the closest finishes we've seen in tennis, where Wood River won the 4A championship with 30.5 points. Ridgeview took second at 27. So only 3.5 points separated Wood River and Ridgeview. And it looks like we could be headed towards that collision course again.
Yeah. If you play in a tournament like that and you're playing against teams that are, bigger than you, have better athlete. Well, that's not what I'm trying to say. Better, a bigger pool to pull from, right, for their athletes. And specifically with Wood River, I know this isn't a Magic Valley conversation. You've seen them struggle in other sports, but to go in and play well in a tournament with a bunch of 5A schools, that's really impressive to do, and only bodes well for the future.
Yeah, so those are some of the tennis teams that we are keeping an eye on as State will be ramping up here very soon. We are into the month of May, which means the state championships are going to come hot and heavy. First, it'll be golf, where we'll be keeping an eye on. Cole Valley Christian and Homedale always seem to be really strong in golf. Remember, it's only 3A and below competing in spring golf. Then we'll have tennis and softball and baseball and track and field, and we'll preview all of those. But it all starts with district play, and district baseball and softball begins. It began earlier this week in East Idaho. The 3-team Mountain Rivers Conference decided they just needed to get a jump on everybody and start on Monday. Sugar Salem and Teton and South Fremont, for some reason. I mean, they had plenty of time, but they decided to start on Monday. In the Treasure Valley, it gets started really on Thursday. So what we're going to do is, if you're watching the video version of this on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, by the way, you should subscribe, hit the little bell icon, and then every time we publish a new podcast, you'll be notified and you can go check it out. If you're watching the video, we are going to, I'm going to share my screen and we'll put the brackets up on the screen and break them down that way. If you're listening audio only at IdahoSports.com or wherever you download your podcasts, you can still follow along. We have all the district brackets right on the homepage at IdahoSports.com. So let's start in baseball, and let's start with the 5A SIC, Logan, because this is the tournament that is starting most immediately. And again, if you're watching the video version of this, maybe make your screen full size so it's a little easier to see that bracket. But this is kind of a scaled back version where the top 7 seeds all kind of get buys into the double elimination portion of the bracket, which is different from how softball does that. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But basically, you've got a series of play-in games on Thursday. You've got number 8 Timberline hosting number 13 Boise, number 9 Centennial hosting number 12 Nampa, and number 10 Meridian hosting number 11 Capital. Kind of surprising to see Timberline, traditionally a strong program, in this play-in round.
Yeah, I mean, there was some separation that occurred as the season went along, but I mean, Timberline finished at 5-7 in the conference. I mean, really, that's only a couple of games away from, maybe getting that bye, into the next round, like Mountain View and Cuna sitting there and playing in that 5 or that 6-7 game, I should say, were both a game above Timberline and just one game difference. So, they were right there from not having to play it, but that's how it goes, right? One pitch can be separate you from being already there versus having to play in the play-in round.
Yeah, a lot of parity this year in the SIC. Nampa and Boise both went 2-10. Capital was 3-9. Meridian and Centennial each went 4-8. And Timberline, as you said, Logan, went 5-7. But they were only a game out of 6th and 2 games out of 5th. As we now look at who got buys here. We'll start with you mentioned the 6 and the 7. Mountain View and Cuna, they each went 6-6. Mountain View beat Cuna head-to-head in the conference game that counted, so they technically get the 6. Doesn't really matter because by the time they get to that point, they'll be playing at neutral site at Bora. So that part, it doesn't matter too much, but that's going to be a pretty even matchup. And then you look even above that. Bora gets the 5 seed at 7-5. Eagle is the 4 seed at 8-4. And Rocky Mountain is the 3 seed at 9-3. And they await the winners of these play-in rounds. Who of the teams that are playing in the play-in round, Logan, who is most likely to go on a dark horse run?
I mean, I think I would say Timberline. Like you said, just kind of surprising to see them where they were at. But overall they were 12-9 on the season, so it's not like they had a poor season overall. A winning record coming into the tournament. And, they do hold wins. They beat Bora earlier in the year, right? You look at who they've played. They beat Mountain View. They beat Boise. Of course, they did earlier. They'll play them again, but they beat Boise last week, 7-0, right? So they had a close game with Bora last week. They had a close game with Rocky Mountain. They've had close games with Hawaii as well. And so I think they're a couple pitches away maybe from being right there in it. And they're a team that maybe you would not want. I don't think anybody wants to play Timberline. I don't think anybody wants to play anybody, right? Anybody can win any given day, right? But I think Timberline of those 6 is probably the team that I think could potentially give somebody fits. Just because, right? If you look at that bracket, right, I believe the highest remaining seed, right, is going to play Bora. And those, Timberline played Bora on Friday and it was 2-0. They played earlier in the season a 1-run game that Timberline won. So they could very easily, I don't think there's a lot of separation there between those two.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see for sure. My dark horse is going to be Meridian, that number 10 seed. When you look at the Warriors and their body of work, they went 4-8 in conference, 9-11 overall, but they've got some impressive wins on the resume, Logan. They have beaten Rocky Mountain this year 4-2. They have beaten Timberline 5-0. They lost to Hawaii, which we'll talk about in a second here, by just a run, 4-3. So I think Meridian has maybe some dark horse potential too. They're going to have a tough matchup with Capital out of the gates. They did just beat Capital a couple weeks ago, though, 17-7. So I would say look out for the Warriors there as well. And then we've got up top here the best of 3 championship series where the top 2 teams automatically just play each other in a best of 3. For the SIC championship, it's going to be Middleton and Hawaii. They each went 11-1 in league play this year. Middleton 20-3 overall. Hawaii 19-2. Middleton gets the quote-unquote number 1 seed because the Vikings defeated Hawaii in their conference matchup. It was 2-1. Now Hawaii won the non-conference matchup 5-4, so they split in the regular season. This is going to be a fantastic 3 games.
Yeah, no, there is not a better. This is a very, very likely state championship preview. Be completely honest, right? These 2 teams have shown that they are the best. Hawaii won the thing last year, right? Middleton has just rolled through their schedule. Middleton lost to Eagle in there, but Hawaii has been the team to really push Middleton, right? And I just think that this is the best setup, right, of what we've seen in each district tournament. You always hate seeing a 1 seed get have one just crazy bad game and lose a chance to win a state or go to a state tournament. That's not the case. It's done. These two teams are going to state. They have punched their tickets, and this is what people want. I personally think, right? Let me see the best two teams play each other and settle it out, because there has not been much on aggregate. These two teams are even coming into the game, right? They beat each other by one. It should be fun to potentially get 3 more games of Middleton Owyhee.
Yeah, so like you said, both of these teams have already qualified for state. There are 4.5 bids plus a half bid. So as many, like every other sport this year, as many as 6 teams could qualify from the SIC, as few as 4. 5th and 6th place will have to challenge 2nd place respectively from up north and from the east. And this year it's been kind of hard to gauge, but if we saw 6 teams from the SIC, it wouldn't totally shock me.
Yeah, you look, right? You look and you see Coeur d'Alene looks really good. I think Coeur d'Alene over there is a good team. Highland from the east side, right? And if those two teams, I think, will probably win their districts. Looking ahead, I mean, you probably looked at it more than me. And Lake City, I think, looks pretty good. But outside of that, man, I don't know why you would bet against any SIC team right now. I know in other sports, that doesn't always go the way of the SIC. You see the teams from East Idaho win, North Idaho, whatever, and they love to say we hate the state of Ada. But right now, man, I'm baseball. It is. I think it's the SIC. I think very likely to see at least 5 bids, and like you said, potentially 6 that'll be playing at state this year from the SIC.
Yeah, and when you look at that Middleton Owyhee matchup, the best of 3, it's the pitching, right? The pitching always is key this time of year.
Yeah,
I mean, each have a solid top 3. Middleton has probably the best pitcher in the classification, in Robert Orlowski. On the season, he has a 1.17 ERA. Their number 2 starter is probably going to be another senior, Trayton Swigert. He's got a 1.35 ERA, and then they might go with the sophomore. Ian Lennius in the 3rd game if it gets there, and he's got a 2.22 ERA. So that's 3 starters for Middleton, each with sub 2.5 ERAs. Why he's top 3 when you look at it is Nick McDaniel, the senior. He would probably get the call in game 1, 2.36 ERA. Then they would go with Hunter Mahaffey, the sophomore, a 1.27 ERA. And then the 3rd spot could be either Jack Ryan, senior, or Lucas Skinner, the junior. Probably it's going to be Ryan, the senior, and he's got a 1.84 ERA. So these are 2 really good pitching staffs.
And this, we've said it before, but that's how you win a state championship, right? If you have 3 guys that can pitch and go a full game and keep it low and get the job done, let their bats come in and score a few runs, you're going to win a championship. Yeah, I mean, you just, if you have 2 really good pitchers but not a third, you can win 2 games, but you're going to, you get to the third, if you've got one. And Brandon, we saw this last year at the 3A tournament, right? Where Kimberly had probably the best pitcher in it. And he goes out and does super well at the beginning of the game. And they say, we want to save him. You're trying to plan and save a player, and then they end up losing that game, right? Where instead, if you've got 3, say, you know what, I don't need to save this guy. He can pitch this one out. I've got a guy that I trust on Friday, and I got to trust a guy that I trust on Saturday. And if you don't have that, you're really going to struggle, because you're going to play the game of who's going to come in the 3rd inning here. If we can get to the 3rd and get a 4-run lead, then we can. That's complicated, and it backfires. It backfired on Kimberly, who probably should have won the state. They were really good. They were a good team, and I thought that they, at 3A, they probably should have won that state championship. But it is what it is. They didn't have what it took in that game when their starter came out. And you look at Middleton and Owyhee, and you say they've got 3 guys. When you go 1, 2, 3, back to back to back, it might be easy to catch them on an off night here and there, but consistently, like, it's going to be tough when maybe you can't save your ace for that game specifically. If you meet them in the 2nd round, you might have had to use them in the 1st, and that's where I think both of these teams are just going to be difficult to deal with.
Yeah, Kimberly had 2 of the 3 best pitchers at state last year. They were missing that third guy. You're right, Logan. They pulled their ace in the first game and tried to, so then they could use him on Saturday, and it backfired. And then we saw on Friday in that loser out game, their number 2 guy went out and threw a no hitter. So I mean, it was
it just like it was tough to see because you knew it's just like, oh man, if we just had one more guy at both of these teams, they don't need to. If you can save pitches, terrific, great. But you know that I got a guy that can come out Thursday and come out Friday and come out Saturday, and we're good.
Yeah.
We don't need to plan around it. So, I think those are the best 2 teams in the state, and it should be. But that doesn't always equate to state championships, right? We've seen that before where the best 2 teams don't win. It will be tough. Like you said, I think these 2 teams very good. So it's fun to be able to see them play one of these best of 3 series because, this truly probably will show us who the better team is.
Yeah, it's gonna be fantastic. If you add it up, they've played twice in the regular season. They could play 3 times at districts, and then in the championship, it's almost like a 7-game series.
Yeah, and it'll probably 4-3 is probably how it'll end up.
Right. In terms of Max Preps rankings, right, because that's how state will be seeded. These aren't official yet because the teams up north are still playing regular season games and in theory could move up or down. But as of right now, the top 6 spots in the 5A Max Preps rankings all belong to teams from the SIC. Owyhee 1, Middleton 2, Rocky 3, Eagle 4, Mountain View 5, Bora 6. I mean, at this point, you can pretty much pencil in Owyhee as the 1 seed, Middleton as the 2 seed. I don't think anybody from the north is going to catch them there. So They would be on opposite sides of the bracket. And it would be pretty intriguing to see how that could shake out.
So do these take regular season only? They do not take what's going to happen in districts, correct?
Correct. The only thing districts is deciding is, which teams get in representation.
Right. So it's kind of interesting. Middleton, right? They've played Rocky twice and beaten them twice, right? One non-conference, one conference. They've played Eagle twice and lost to Eagle 2 times. Middleton, right? They've lost to Eagle 2 times. Once a conference game, once not. That was their only conference loss, right? Was to Eagle. And if Eagle comes in as the 4 and Rocky's going to be the 3, that means that would put Middleton and Rocky on that side of the bracket. And I think if you're Middleton, you look at that and say, all right, we'll take, not that playing Rocky Mountain is this great, easy task, but the team that had given you fits is on the opposite side, right? So kind of an interesting setup there with how that bracket could look.
Yeah, for sure. So that's 5A SIC, and that's going to be much of the talk this week, as we said. Let's take a look at the 4A SIC bracket. There's a couple of things we could pencil in so far here. This tournament will start on Saturday. We were waiting on results of games from last night and figuring out how tiebreakers would get settled. But Skyview is going to be your number 1 seed. They get a first-round bye. The number 2 seed, Columbia and Bishop Kelly, each finished tied for second in the league at 8-4 in conference play. They beat each other, and they both lost to Skyview. So that's 3 of their losses right there. And I believe the tiebreaker then is going to be determined by where was your other loss. Bishop Kelly lost to Emmett, which is either going to be the 4 seed or the 3 seed, or excuse me, they're going to be
4
either
or 5.
4 or 5. Thank you. And then the loss for Columbia came to Caldwell, which is the number 6 seed. So that's going to be the tough part. I got to update this because there's 7 teams in the SIC, and the 7th place team does not get to go. So Valley View misses out on the district baseball tournament. So obviously Columbia took the worst loss. And so we think because of that, Bishop Kelly's going to get that 2 seed.
Yeah, and again, we don't know for sure, but man, that's going to be, Skyview has been in control. That's the thing. And you say, Skyview lost. Who'd they lose to? One of those 2 teams below? No, they lost to Ridgeview. So you got to take a couple of steps down to find Skyview's loss. But both of those teams, Columbia and BK, are going to be trying to swing at Skyview, who they haven't been able to knock off yet. And again, there's right? The champion makes it to state. There's only 2 bids, correct? There's only 2 from the
Yes,
conference, and
correct.
it's going to be, honestly, I don't know what the Max Preps ranking look like in 4A. Maybe you've got that up, but
Yep.
it's going to be tough to see Columbia or BK not there, to be honest. That's I don't know. That's one, you always hear the Eastern Idaho people cry about it. But I think this is one that is you're going to leave out one of the best 4 teams in the state, to be honest.
Yep, for sure. Those 3 teams are all ranked in the top 8 of the Max Preps rankings. Skyview is actually number 1 overall,
Yeah.
Logan. They would be the number 1 seed if they got to state. Columbia is number 5. BK is number 7. And you're right, there's going to be a really good team staying at home. When you look at how things went in the regular season, Skyview swept Columbia, 1 close game, a 1-0 win, and then a lopsided game, an 8-3 win. Same story with BK, a close game, a 10-8 win, and a lopsided game, a 6-1 win. And then you look at BK and Columbia when they played each other this year, and we talked about they split. Columbia won 6-1, BK won 6-5. So this is going to be as tight as it can be, and it's probably going to come down to the luxury for Skyview, and we think BK is going to be 1 less game. Columbia is going to have to try and figure out a 3rd pitcher that can get them into state, where BK and Skyview potentially only have to worry about 2.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a tough situation, right? To find yourself in, where now, like we talked about with state, where you got to have those 3, and you know what, you only have to have 2 if you're in that winner's bracket, right? And so that's a tough situation. And I just think that's one of it happens every year in every sport, and we don't need to talk about it anymore. But a good team is not going to be at state this year.
Yeah, it's a bummer for sure. And it's nice to see, because the 4A SIC, we talked about in a lot of other sports, that, oh man, the second place team could probably be swapped out for somebody else statewide. But this time in baseball, it's working against them. So we'll keep an eye on that one. And again, that gets started on Saturday with play-in games or first round games, we should say. And all we know for sure is that Caldwell is going to be the 6. We think Columbia is going to be the 3. And then we got to figure out between Ridgeview and Emmett who gets the 4 and 5. Basically, it's going to be home field advantage there. If we go to the 3A Snake River Valley Conference, Logan, this is all seeded and ready to go. Fruitland and Payette finished tied in the league at 8-2 this year. Fruitland did get the 1 seed on the tiebreaker, and so that puts them there's no easy path here. Really, I think any of the 5 of the 6 could potentially come out of this thing. You've got some really intriguing first round matchups. Homedale, the 3 seed, will play McCall Donnelly, the 6. Parma, the 4 seed, will play Weiser, the 5. Who comes out of this thing, Logan?
Who knows, Brandon? This is one that, between this and I mean, even in the 2A bracket as well. I mean, you look at it and you say it's tough to decide, because I mean, we were just talking about Parma earlier. Parma beat Fruitland, right? This week on Monday.
Yep.
Like that's no easy guarantee for Fruitland in their first game. If Parma beats Weiser, right, and then they get Fruitland, there's no guarantee for Fruitland based on what happened this week. I don't know. I mean, I would lean. Fruitland definitely, I think, has the advantage, right? They're the 1 seed. They play great all season. But then you look at Payette too, and did anybody expect that? I don't know. And they beat Homedale on Monday, took care of business there. They beat Parma last week. They lost to Fruitland earlier, but they lost to Fruitland twice this year. Lost by 1 run and then lost by 5 last week. And so there's no reason Payette can't. I don't know. Give me the Pirates, Brandon. Give me the Pirates just for fun, right? They're in first place in the National League right now. So give me the Payette Pirates, just because I haven't had a chance to say that, in the last few years. Is give me the Payette Pirates to win the championship.
Yeah, the Pittsburgh Pirates leading the National League right now in major leagues. Payette. So Payette's only 2 losses in conference were to Fruitland. And so you're going, well, who did Fruitland lose to? Fruitland lost to Parma on Monday night, 12-8, and they lost to Homedale earlier this year in a very tight game. I believe it was 1-0. So it was either 1-0 or 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. They lost to Homedale. So,
and here's the thing, though. You know what, Payette, they just need to win a game, right? If they win a game, they go to state. If they can win that first game, there they are. And I think that I just think that they can get it done because, like you said, they've only lost to Fruitland on the year, right? And they took care of business. Homedale, they beat Parma, McCall Donnelly, Weiser. They have wins against good teams from other conferences as well, right? They took care of business. They beat Marsing, who if we talk about the next area is in the mix. And they beat Melba. They tied Melba too. They barely lost to Nampa Christian, right? Just that's a team that I don't think anybody was really expecting much from, just based on historically, right? And I give me Payette, Brandon. At least to make it to state. I think Payette makes it to state for sure. Fruitland and Payette will be at state. I will say that. Yeah. I think the three that come out are Fruitland, Payette, and I'm going to say Parma.
Okay, I like it. The big key is going to be, again, like we talked about at the 4A, Fruitland and Payette having that first round bye, huge, because they have to win once and they qualify for state, whereas Homedale and Parma would each have to win twice to get there, which is going to be interesting. All four of those teams have an absolute stud at the top of the rotation. When you look at Fruitland and Zane Bidwell, who we got to see last year at state, and you talk about Payette, and Colin Heisel has done phenomenally well this year. Homedale, of course, Dylan Fine and his microscopic 0.69 ERA, and then Sean Powers from Parma. Now, the question is going to be, can Homedale and Parma, can they get another good quality start? Homedale's got Peyton Fine, the younger Fine boy. Right. They've got some options there. When you look at Parma, it might be a little trickier where Sean Powers is a great pitcher. But after that, they're probably going to have to turn to Sam Holtman, the sophomore, and he's got a 3.65 ERA, by far the highest among any of these top pitchers that we're talking about. And so that's also the question for Homedale and Parma is, do you go all out and try to win this game to advance to the Final Four? Or do you try to save that bullet? Does Homedale save Dylan Fine to try and push Payette? It's going to be a very interesting decision for Burke Deal, the Homedale coach, as well as the Parma coaching staff.
Yeah, and you know what? If I'm them, I honestly look, and this is, again, we're not trying to be mean to anybody, but like if you look at Weiser, right? I mean, it was a close game, right? Parma and Weiser, it was a 5-6 game a couple weeks ago, but you look at what they've, they lost to Homedale 14-0. They lost to Fruitland 14-3. They did beat Parma earlier in the year. Weiser did 4-3. And so it's kind of tough to look at it and decide what to do if you're Parma. I mean, they've been right there. I think in this round, Homedale has the easier decision. I think. Yes. I think and this is again benefits from finishing third instead of fourth, right? At the end of the day, right? You get, quote, the easier game, and those, there it is. There's a direct benefit that goes to Homedale. I think they definitely have the easier game. There's no knock on McCall Donnelly, but they did not win a conference game this year. So I think you're able to, if you're Homedale, save it for the next round. And then if you're Payette, you look at it and say, darn it, I wish I had that top spot. Then you get somebody that, two teams that had to battle. So I don't know, that's how I see it shaking out, but I'm also not a coach. So I don't know what they're, what they'll do, but I would imagine that Homedale will save for game 2.
I think that if I were Homedale, that's what I would do. Dylan Fine pitches game 1 because you've beaten McCall Donnelly twice this year, 12-2 and 15-4. And then Dylan Fine, who I still think is the best pitcher in the conference, pound for pound. Then you're going against Payette, and Payette's probably throwing Colin Heisel, and that would be a fantastic pitching matchup. And then you put it on the line, and whatever happens from there happens. But for Parma, I think you got to throw Powers game one. Just because you mentioned it's been kind of close with this year. And then you throw the sophomore against Fruitland and you hope for the best. And again, a 3.65 ERA is pretty good for high school, but compared to all these other great pitchers, it is a little higher. But
yeah, you got to, there's the fine line, right, between saving and just winning. And I think if you're Parma, you got to win that first game. And it's not a given again. Weeds are a team 2 years out from a state championship. Like, it's not been down this year, but has played Parma pretty well in the regular season. So Parma can't look forward to the next game as much as Homedale may, even though they never would admit that they're looking forward. Nobody ever does, we're playing what's in front of us. But I think there is some strategy involved in that a little bit here.
Yeah, for sure. When you look at the Max Preps rankings, Logan, these 4 teams are all in the top 10. Fruitland is 4. You've got Homedale at 6, Payette right behind at 7, and then Parma checks in at number 10. And so, it's going to be fascinating to see this tournament. I think this could be one of the most exciting tournaments out there.
And maybe the more I look at it though, Brandon, Saturday. This is good for Homedale, right? Is that you play on Saturday and then you play on Monday, right? So whoever you throw on Saturday, let's say you play Monday, and you lose, right? Turn around, you got a game on Tuesday now. I don't know what the time is, but having that day off or that Sunday is going to be it's going to be helpful to those teams that played on Saturday, I think.
Yeah,
I think they're probably hoping, can we play it on Friday actually? And then there's a little more time too.
Yes. And I should mention the opening round is Saturday, high noon for each of these games. Weezer at Parma, McCall Donnelly at Homedale. And then your semifinals would be Monday night. Fruitland hosting at 6, Payette hosting at 5. Those are going to be must-watch games for sure. This is another tournament that's going to be pretty wide open, I think. The 2A Western Idaho Conference, Logan. We haven't even been able to put any teams on the seed line yet because that's how close the standings have been. But when you look at the standings overall, we've talked about Nampa Christian, hasn't been their usual dominant self. They are 7-2 in the league, 15-5 overall. I think at this point, I'm not sure anyone can catch them for the number 1 seed, so we could probably put that in. But after that, Cole Valley, Marcin, Melba, all 5-4 in the league.
Yeah, and I mean, there is a lot to play for. I think everybody's got one more game left, and like you said, nobody can catch Nampa Christian. They should have that top spot, but there is a lot left, right, for that 2 seed, and there's 3 teams for it. Melba plays Nampa Christian, so that's going to be a tough one. But Marcin is a team to watch out for, right? They just beat Melba. They beat Nampa Christian last week. And so they finish up with North Star Charter, right? So if you look at it on paper and you say, who has the easiest game this week, you would look at it and say, Marcin lined up with North Star Charter. They have maybe the greatest opportunity to win this week and fill in that final number 2 spot. And that's a team that's dangerous. Like we said, they beat Nampa Christian. They beat Vision Charter as well, who's been in that top spot at the 1A level, and so they're a team to look out for right now.
See, and I can appreciate your thought exercise, and my dogs can as well. I'm sure you can hear them going nuts in the background. Okay, but here's the thing: each of these teams has 1 game left. Melba hosts Nampa Christian tonight. We're recording this on Wednesday, May 3rd, and I think everybody plays tonight. So we'll know how this is going to shake out tomorrow. So Melba hosts Nampa Christian tonight. Cole Valley is at New Plymouth. And then you mentioned Marcin hosts North Star Charter. And just based on seedings, North Star Charter is going to be the 6. New Plymouth is going to be the 5. You would think, okay, yeah, Cole Valley and Marcin probably have the easiest path. But North Star beat Marcin this year 7-2. And Cole Valley did beat New Plymouth, but it was only 10-9. And you look at Melba, the toughest matchup with Nampa Christian, they beat the Trojans 4-3.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
New Plymouth beat beat Marsing last week. I don't. Nobody. Who knows? There's no way to predict it because everybody has beat up on everybody in this conference. Nampa Christian just happens to have not been beat up as much, and North Star just got beat up a little bit more. But outside of that, they've all been really competitive with each other. So I think it bodes well for the state tournament as well. Like having these teams are all really good, and when they get to state, they're going to be prepared.
Yeah, only 2 spots available at state, and honestly, any of the 6 could get them. I think.
I can't believe that only 2 are going to.
Yeah, that's
a little annoying. That's
2 of 6, because then East Idaho gets 1.5, basically. The District 5 and 6 champs get to go, and then second place from District 5 will play second place from District 6. I believe that is the only play-in game. Otherwise, the North gets 2, and District 3 gets 2, and then, of course, you've got your district champ from District 4, which looks like is going to be Declo. So this also is going to be a fantastic tournament to watch. And when you look at the Max Preps rankings in the 2A baseball ranks, Nampa Christian is 1, Cole Valley Christian is 4, Marsing is 7, Melba is 10, North Star Charter is 11, New Plymouth is 14. So you've got 5 of the top 11 all coming from this conference.
And it's crazy. You just mentioned Declo, right? And that's one that hadn't even been on my radar just because I'm not a Magic Valley guy, but they beat Wendell. They beat them twice so far, and they play them again. And Wendell's a team that's beaten Nampa Christian a couple of times.
Yes.
So you look at that Declo team and say, man, that's a team that might make a run to a state championship just looking at it on paper right now.
I think when we talk about state baseball tournaments, I think 2A is going to be the most wide open, with Firth returning a lot of their guys from last year. They got all the way to the championship. Orofino up north has been looking very good. Plus, they're playing at their home ballpark, which will be a huge factor. I don't know, man. The 2A
that should be a good tournament. Just looking at it right now, that might be one of the most tight ones that we have.
You should go up there and broadcast that with Paul, Logan. You could have the most exciting action, plus a beautiful ballpark to call the games from.
It would be fun. It would be.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk more about that on our state baseball preview show coming in a couple of weeks. But 2A is going to be pretty wild. 1A District 3, the Western Idaho Conference. I got to be honest, I'm not sure how this is going to get seeded out, because not everybody is going to end up being able to play the same amount of conference games. The idea coming into the season, Logan, was there are 8 full-fledged members of the conference, and everybody was supposed to play everybody twice for a total of 14 conference games.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not everybody's going to get to that. I think we're going to get close unless there are games being made up that we haven't been told about. But we're running out of room on the runway here. But as it stands right now, Vision Charter is still in first at 11-2. Glens Ferry is second at 8-3. Idaho City is in third at 7-5. You've got Horseshoe Bend in fourth at 6-6. Garden Valley is in fifth at 5-5. Gem State is in sixth at 4-4. And so you can already see the number of games aren't adding up. And then Rimrock at 3-8 and Wilder at 0-11. One thing we can tell you is Lighthouse Christian, their first year of high school baseball, Logan, they decided to basically be an independent team. They played a lot of JV teams, but they are going to compete in the District 3 tournament. And they said coming in, hey, we'll just take the last seed. And we know that going in. Lighthouse Christian is not bad. They beat Glens Ferry earlier this year, where Camden Boyd threw a no-hitter. And so, you look at Lighthouse Christian at number 9, they could throw a spanner in the works even.
Yeah, I don't think they'll have any problem in that play-in tournament.
Yeah.
That should be just fine for them, I think.
and you might ask then, well, how come they weren't just a full member of the conference? And well, they made the decision kind of in December to let's do this and have a baseball team. By then, everyone had already built their schedules out. And so Lighthouse really didn't have a chance they had to fill their schedule in with JV teams and stuff like that. So it wasn't that they didn't want to compete. It's just they didn't have enough time. So, okay. But if we look at these teams, Glens Ferry historically has kind of been the team in this conference, especially now that North Star Charter is not there anymore. But Vision Charter, we continue to talk about the Golden Eagles, 11-3 overall, 11-2 in the conference. Logan, we just did our baseball edition of Heavy Hitters on IdahoSports.com. Again, we do Heavy Hitters on Mondays, primetime pitchers on Tuesday. Vision Charter had a game on Saturday where both Lakin Wilson and Cody Klein each had 6 stolen bases in one game.
That's that takes some skill to be able to get that far. You know, in 8-year-old baseball, that's pretty common. But not at the high school level. It's nuts. Right? I mean, you had to get on base that many times enough that you can steal that many times. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's so Vision Charter, I think, looking really good. Glens Ferry, I think, is going to be solid. Four teams advanced to state out of this district. The other 2 spots, Idaho City's played well this year, and they've got a lot of big, strong, big dude, like 6'4", 230, just big boppers. I still look at Horseshoe Bend and Garden Valley though, and and even Gem State to an extension. They've just got good athletes. You look at the Garden Valley roster, and it's a lot of names we recognize: Tacoma Kelly, Jaden Hunt, Gavin Kelly, the Korn brothers, Grayson and Trevor. I mean, it's all these guys that we recognize. And same with Horseshoe Bend. It's Blaine Meyer and it's Carson Drake, and so I don't know. In my mind, I'm still kind of leaning Garden Valley and Horseshoe Bend. It would be awesome to see Idaho City get to state for the first time, though.
Yeah, it's just when it gets to that situation, you're right. Do those athletes that are just very good athletes, do they show up? But man, that would be a crazy story, right, for Idaho City, who hadn't had a baseball team for ever, right? Or did they have, but starting it up last year, not even really having a home field to play on, could be looking at a trip to state. But Horseshoe Bend, I mean, they are one of the teams. They beat Vision Charter last week. They can get it done. And like you said, Garden Valley, just the names and the athletes, they can always just show up at the right time. They did fall yesterday to Vision Charter 15-7 though. But of those, we're going to see 4 of those 5. It would be a very cool story to see Idaho City though.
Yeah, for sure. Horseshoe Bend might have sneakily the best pitcher in the conference, Zeke Ochoa, a senior. He's been phenomenal this year on the bump. And really the key is going to be of this glom of teams. Really, Rimrock and Wilder, I think, are probably out of it. They're going to be in the play-in round, definitely. Which of the other teams can avoid the play-in round? Who finishes in the top 5? Because you've got 7 teams fighting for it. And again, we've talked about if you finish in the top 5 and you get that bye, and even if you're look at this 1 and 2 get a double bye. Yeah. So if you're Vision Charter and Glens Ferry, and I don't know if Idaho City can catch either of them. They're 2 back in the loss column at this point. Again, the standings are kind of a mess because nobody's played the same number of games. But the double bye is going to be huge because you only need to win 1 game and you're going to state, and even getting one of these top 5 seeds is huge because then you only have to use 2 pitchers in theory to get to state. But so avoiding the play-in round is going to be key.
Yeah, so I mean, again, like you said, who knows what the schedule actually is going to be like the next week. But right now, I see on the schedule, right, Glens Ferry will play Rimrock, right? But then they play Idaho City. And so, again, not sure exactly what Idaho City has the next couple of games, but, we'll see. I mean, I don't know if they can even catch them. I think they both have a game before that. It would require another loss from Glens Ferry, but could potentially at least get within 1 game of them potentially. But
yeah, it'll be fascinating to watch, and we'll come back next week and actually have this thing seeded. The play-in games are next Monday at Glens Ferry, so we will see how all of that goes. And it's actually a double. It's a double play-in game if you look at this bracket here, Logan. So they've got to play. Not only do you have to win once on Monday, you've got to win a second time just to get to the number 6 seed. So you're talking about somebody burning 2 pitchers and then only having a day of rest to then try and win 2 more times to get to state. I don't know, that playing around is going to be, this bracket is set up for the higher seeded teams.
For the higher seeds, definitely.
I will say that. That's going to be interesting. All right, let's just work our way up the other way with softball, and these will move a little quicker because there's not as much strategy involved in terms of the pitching staffs because everything is so condensed and the same pitcher throws 5 million innings every year. So there's less strategy here. This is the 1A District 3 tournament. And again, we cannot seed anything yet, kind of the same as on the baseball side, Logan, where I don't think everybody's going to get to the same amount of conference games. Notice we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Wasn't sure they were going to have enough players for a team. They got enough players out about a month into the season to actually start competing. It's a lot of freshmen. They have had to forfeit some games recently, I'm assuming because of low numbers. And so, but you look at the standings, Glens Ferry, 12-1, Vision Charter, 10-2, Greenleaf Friends, 8-4, Garden Valley, 9-5, Horseshoe Bend, 6-6. Lighthouse is a full-fledged member of this conference. They're 6-9. Wilder, 5-10. Notice is 0-9 currently. Idaho City is 0-10. This is a little different where the top 3 teams automatically advance to state, Logan, and that'll be the same in District 2. And then the final 2 spots will be awarded based on the highest Max Preps ranking. So you could see as many as 5 teams from District 3. You could see as few as 3.
I mean, you look at those standings like you were just saying, that. Sorry, I'm looking at it right here in front of me. Vision Charter 10-2, but those 2 losses have come. They lost 2 games recently, right? They lost to Glens Ferry and they lost to Garden Valley. So you're looking at it, and those teams behind it. There's no guarantee, I think, right now.
I think what's going to end up happening is it's going to be an even split. 4 from District 3, 4 from the North. If you look at the Max Preps rankings currently, your top 8 slices out that way. Potlatch is 1, Clearwater Valley is 2. They're both from the North. Glens Ferry is 3, Kendrick is 4, Genesee is 5. So 4 of the top 5 are from the White Pine League. But then you've got Vision Charter at 6, Greenleaf Friends at 7, Garden Valley at 8. And so, and I just don't know that.
Unless there's a crazy upset, that's probably what it's going to look like.
Yeah, 4-4, I think. And so the question then is who gets there? Who gets those 4 spots? I feel pretty good about Glens Ferry. They won it all 2 years ago. They've got Campbell King and all these great young hitters. Vision Charter, I feel pretty good about. I feel pretty good about Greenleaf too. And we've talked about this group of girls at Greenleaf coming through. It's a once in a lifetime class where they've had a lot of athletic success. And then the 4th spot, I mean, you look on the surface and you go, all right, Garden Valley, Mike Chandler's got a veteran team. They're 9-5. Can somebody throw a wrench into the plans? I just don't know. I think this one's kind of clear cut.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's, you look at what they've done through the season. I mean, maybe Horseshoe Bend, they did lose to Horseshoe Bend 12-6. That was a long time ago though. But, I like that Garden Valley team to come out of it. I mean, they would essentially have to. There would have to be an upset by maybe Horseshoe Bend securing 1, 2, or 3. That's almost essentially what would have to happen, right? In the tournament, because they cannot jump them in terms of the Max Prep rankings. So I mean, really, when you look at it. They have a game against Vision Charter. Again, Garden Valley does tomorrow on Thursday. They beat them on Tuesday. If they win again, I think that they would be safely in. I mean, it's going to take a lot for Horseshoe Bend to finish 1, 2, or 3. And as long as Garden Valley holds on to that number 8 spot in Max Preps, then they should be good to go.
I will say maybe one team that could lurk is Lighthouse Christian, only because they've put up some really crooked numbers this year, Logan. This is just a sampling of Lighthouse Christian's season. They beat Wilder 23-22. They lost to Garden Valley in extra innings 29-28. They beat Idaho City 22-9. And then again, 29-11. They just lost to Horseshoe Bend 36-32. So
that game probably took forever. 30. What is that combined? That's 68 runs.
Yeah. Yep.
I'd like to know the time on that. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff there. But we think this is kind of clear cut. Your top 4 probably are going to be the ones that make it to state. 2A Western Idaho Conference. Again, we had to wait on some regular season results to seed this bad boy, but because when you look at the conference standings, Logan, Nampa Christian, Coal Valley Christian, both 6-1 in the league, and they each have 1 regular season game left. Nampa Christian will play tonight, Wednesday, May 3rd at Melba. Coal Valley Christian will play at New Plymouth. Coal Valley's got the more difficult matchup here, I think, and so we could see Nampa Christian clinch first tonight.
Yes, I mean, you said it. I mean, New Plymouth is a team that beat Coal Valley earlier this year. Or no, excuse me, no, they beat New Plymouth. They beat them 12-2. Excuse me, but New Plymouth is a team that sits at 4-3. Definitely, I think the tougher of the list, but I think they both probably get it done. And then I don't know, how does the tiebreaker work? Did they beat each other, right? Nampa Christian, yeah, yes, they beat each other.
Of course.
And they don't have any other losses to anybody else.
Right. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly how they go about figuring that out. But
at the end of the day, I don't know if it really matters. I think those 2 teams come out of it and go to state either way.
I think so too. Maybe New Plymouth, just because they have kind of the history, and Coach Sam Crockett, has taken them to state so often. But you're right. To me, it's kind of the 2 Christian schools, Nampa Christian and Coal Valley Christian, for sure, kind of favored there. But it'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, because right now, I mean, you look at what they've got. They have beaten up on the teams below them and lost to the teams above them so far in New Plymouth. So kind of need to see something more from them before I can say, yeah, you guys are headed on to the next round, as they haven't. I mean, they did play a close one with Nampa Christian. It was only 7-8 on Monday. So, but yeah, you're right. Maybe they can pull an upset somewhere in there, and they actually get the bid after all.
Yeah, and what's on the line here? The only thing that we can officially slot in, and I guess we can't even. Marcine is the only team that's actually completed its conference season. They're 1-7. The other 4 teams will all play each other tonight. Melba with a win, and that would have to be over Nampa Christian, could avoid a tie with Marcine for last place, and that would give them the 5 seed. But tall order for sure, but it'll be interesting. But yeah, I think Nampa Christian and Coal Valley Christian, and we'll come back next week and have this thing actually seeded out. The first round is Friday, and New Plymouth is hosting all of the games. And so continue to check back at IdahoSports.com for updated brackets there. 3A, Snake River Valley Conference. Here it is, all seeded out for you, Logan. The first round, just like the baseball side, starts Saturday, high noon, Parma at Fruitland, and then also Payette is going to take on McCall Donnelly, the 3 seed. Kind of interesting here, Logan. McCall Donnelly is the 3 seed, but their field, I don't think, has been playable this year because of the weather and stuff. And so I'm not sure that McCall Donnelly even had a home game. I would have to double check that. But this is why their game is going to be held at Fruitland right after the Grizzlies play, because I don't think McCall Donnelly's field is playable. And so you're basically have a double dip on Saturday at Fruitland.
And that'd be, if that's what's going on with them, that's a long way to go to for every single one of your games. You've got to, is the snow even gone up there? I don't know if it is. I don't know. Anyways, I haven't been up to McCall lately, but anyway, yeah, I mean, you look at this, the way the standings are right now, and I mean, it's pretty top heavy. Homedale blew through everybody undefeated. You really like Homedale to make their run and make it back to state once again. But then outside of that, I mean, Weezer and McCall Donnelly, kind of those next two in line. That's that next step. And I like those two teams as well to maybe make a run at it.
Yeah, I think Homedale for sure. And to me, Homedale is kind of my 3A favorite overall. When you get to state and you start talking about state with Danny Sitz, one of the best pitchers in the classification, and all the great hitters they have as well. You look at Weezer, they went 7-3 in the league. They lost to Homedale twice. And then their third league loss actually came to Payette, the last place team. They lost 17-3 in kind of a head scratcher. But I'm with you. I think it's Weezer.
And Weezer is an interesting team. They've got some, they beat Centennial and they hung in there with some other good teams, but they've given up a lot of runs, and that's what is concerning, right? Like you said, 17 to Payette, they gave up 13 and 23 to Kimberly. Even in a win over McCall Donnelly, they gave up 12. So, that's just one thing to watch out for Weezer.
Yep, for sure. Homedale is ranked 4th right now in the current Max Preps rankings, behind a trio of teams from District 4, Kimberly, Gooding, and Buell. Now, Homedale's got the better overall record, except for Kimberly, which is 20-2. And so I'm wondering if Kimberly's dominance has lifted Gooding and Buell, because they all play each other like 3 or 4 times in that league over there. That's the only thing I can think of. Homedale probably is going to be the 3 seed at state if they get there, because only 2 teams are advancing from District 4. So I think Homedale's probably going to be that 3 seed. Weezer is currently seeded 8th. That seems about right. And they'll probably be the 7 seed at state if they get there. So,
yeah. Just, this is one where, a lot of other ones we think that there's teams that can make a run. And I think right now in District 3, it's Homedale that can make the run from the district at state.
Yeah, pretty clear cut. Homedale and Weezer did play for the championship last year, so we'll see if that is in the cards again this year. 4A SIC, we concede quite a bit of this one. Bishop Kelly is going to be your 1 seed. Skyview is going to be your 2 seed. Skyview, of course, the reigning 5A state champions, and they moved down to 4A, but it hasn't been smooth sailing, right? The Hawks went 15-7 overall this year, but 10-2 in the conference with a pair of losses to Bishop Kelly. Emmett is going to be the 3 seed. Now, after last night's action, we can say that Ridgeview is going to be the 4. And then the 5 and 6 will come down to Columbia and Valley View on a tiebreaker. But to me, it is Bishop Kelly and Skyview, and maybe Emmett can cause some chaos. But really, to me, this one's kind of clear cut as well.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the games was a 4-run game, was close. The other one, not so much, 15-run difference by BK. We talked about BK softball earlier. They're really good, but it's been a while since Skyview and BK played each other, so maybe something changed there. But somebody's going to need to show something, or else BK is just going to continue to roll through like they have.
Yeah, a couple of high-scoring games, 17-13 and 21-6 were the 2 wins for Bishop Kelly this year. Those 2 teams are 2-3 in the Max Preps rankings, only behind Pocatello, who is still undefeated. So that checks out.
Yeah. I mean, that's impressive, and that, I mean, that there seems to be a step even from 2 to 3. Like, BK has clearly cemented themselves above Skyview, and Skyview's still in 3rd place.
Yeah. Bishop Kelly and Skyview get first round buys. Emmett and Ridgeview will host opening round games Saturday, May 6th. And then the winners of those will take on BK and Skyview Monday night at 5:00 at each home venue, respectively. And then from there, the tournament will move to Valley View at a neutral site. So yeah, that's at the 4A SIC. And then here's the gargantuan, the 5A SIC. So we talked about in baseball, Logan, there was only 3 play-in games. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 play-in games where only the top 3 seeds get buys. Eagle the 1, Owyhee the 2, Capital the 3. And again, these standings were pretty jumbled throughout the year. Eagle wins the outright title by going 10-2 in league. But then Middleton, Owyhee, and Capital all went 9-3. Middleton was on the short side of the 3-way tiebreaker, which means Middleton gets the 4 seed and has to play a play-in game against Boise on Saturday at high noon.
Yeah, just those teams all crammed in there together, right? Just there's not a lot. You look at it and you say, man, Middleton, we talked about them and they did well this year. And, they're the 4 seed, but really they finished in second place, just tied with a couple of other teams there for that. So, the highest remaining seed, if Middleton's able to take care of business, they're going to go and they would just move in and they would play another team from a play-in game. So they would get potentially, who's 5? That Cuna, is that Cuna right
yes,
there?
Cuna. Yes.
And Cuna beat Middleton earlier, but then Middleton beat Cuna. So, it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. Middleton also, they played a non-conference game, interestingly enough, this week and took care of business against who did we just talk about? Bishop Kelly. So, it's a 4A team, but a good win for them. But Eagle just continues to run through it. And then, like you said, you mentioned those other 3 teams, Owyhee and Capital getting those buys. It's a nice benefit to have. And those teams, again, I don't know what the Max Preps rankings look like. I haven't looked at them, but you got to think that the SIC is gonna have a good run at the state tournament this year.
Yeah. And again, as many as 6, as few as 4 could make it from this district. You look at so Eagles, the 1 seed at 10-2, Middleton, Owyhee, Capital all went 9-3. Owyhee gets the 2 seed, Capital the 3, Middleton the 4. Timberline and Cuna each finished 8-4. Cuna wins the tiebreaker, so Cuna is the 5 seed. Timberline drops to the 6. Then you had Rocky Mountain and Bora each finished tied at 6-6. And in that scenario, Bora got the tiebreaker. They're 7. Rocky is 8. Mountain View finishes 5-7. They're the 9 seed. Meridian and Centennial each went 3-9. And then Nampa and Boise each went 1-11. So it's Middleton hosting Boise, Cuna hosting Nampa, Timberline hosting Meridian, Bora hosting Centennial, and Rocky Mountain hosting Mountain View. All of those on Saturday. To me, this is all chalk except for maybe that Rocky Mountain View battle between 8 and 9. And these 2 were locked in either way. It just kind of depended on last night what happened. Mountain View could have been the 8 and hosted. Rocky could have been the 8 and hosted. But these 2 teams have known for a while that, hey, a really good team's going to get knocked out here. And in fact, they played last night, Logan, and Rocky won 3-1. So this is going to be an interesting matchup on Saturday.
Yeah, it might be one of the better games of the tournament, besides maybe like the championship or a semifinal round. But that game will probably be a better game than any of the other play-in games, and potentially any of those, quarterfinal games. I guess I'll say the 1 through the 8. That one shapes up. Those are rivals, right? They call it the Battle of the Mountains. So those 2 teams. Should be fun to see. Those 2 always play good competition no matter what the sport is.
Yeah, you were asking about the Max Preps rankings. The top 5 are from the SIC. Eagle, Owyhee, Middleton, Cuna, Capital. That's your top 5.
Yep.
Then you've got Thunder Ridge at 6, Coeur d'Alene at 7, Timberline is 8, Rocky Mountain is 9, and then Lake City is 10. That's the top 10. And so if we talk about this real quick, and I need to get rid of that. Obviously, there's no score there. Okay, so the top 4 automatically get to go, and then 5th place will have to play 2nd place from up north, which is going to be either Lake City or Coeur d'Alene, most likely. 6th place will get to play 2nd place from the east, which could be Rigby or Highland. And again, we said this in basketball. I think 6th place is going to have an easier time than 5th place. 5th place because Coeur d'Alene and Lake City are both really good.
Yeah. So going, I like the SIC to at least get one of those play-in bids to win. Didn't they get both in basketball? We weren't expecting that to happen. And then there was one of them in basketball that wasn't supposed to happen. Oh, the Eagle girls went up and won their game.
Yeah, and beat Lake City. And then Mountain View had to play Thunder Ridge and lost.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you know what? The way the conference is shaped up right now, I like the chances to, maybe not a walk in the park, so to say, to get the 5th or the 6th bid, but definitely doable to get the 5th or the 6th bid as well.
And I'm telling you, I've been banging the drum for Bora all year. They've been very inconsistent, right? 12-7 overall, 6-6 in the league. I still think Megan Marikel is a difference maker in the pitcher's circle. If she can keep the walks down, that's been her one problem this year, is she tends to walk a lot of batters. But if she's locked in, I mean, her ERA is 189, which is pretty good in softball. So yeah, I don't know. Bora to me is kind of my dark horse team to maybe keep an eye on as this thing progresses. But I feel good about Eagle. I feel good about Hawaii. I feel good about Middleton. I even feel good about CUNA. I guess Capital is the team I'm most tenuous about.
But. Yeah, I think those top 5 are in. Like, I think that whoever, if they make it through districts or they make it through a play-in, I think those 5 are going to be there.
Well, one of those 5 is going to have to play Lake City or Coeur d'Alene, and that's going to be
that's tough.
That's tough. So I don't know. You might see some interesting strategery going on, trying to finish 6th if possible. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah, but anyways, that is a look at all of the district brackets. We went super long on the podcast today, but I thought it was important to break down all of these baseball and softball races and talk about, what lies ahead. Next week will be a little easier, Logan, because we can talk about what actually happened and not have to pontificate and speculate on what might happen.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff might not be complete, but it'll be almost done, right? You'll be able to say, this and this, the winner goes to state, or this and this, the loser is out, whatever it may be. And then after that, that's it. Everything should be wrapped up by Saturday of next week in state tournaments, and then we can have I'm guessing a state tournament preview show again, maybe. Yes. Those are always fun, and we'll get into that.
Yep. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're hitting the stretch drive for sure. And again, check back every night, IdahoSports.com, for updated scores and updated district brackets as well. It's happening every night at IdahoSports.com. All right. Thanks everybody for hanging with us. We missed last week and went double the amount this week. So we're even. We're
even. Yeah. Sure. If you're still here.
Yeah, exactly. For Logan Green, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.